Hello and welcome to the Freedom Zone, where the truth is set free whether you like it or not. I'm your host Candace, and I'm here today to talk about a few things that you might find interesting. My goal today is to ridicule the top three Democrat candidates, or can't-a-dates, as Greg Gutfeld would say, for president. A lot of them have dropped out. Maybe you didn't even know they were running, but the top three, I guess, would be Elizabeth Sanders, and then not Elizabeth Sanders, that's funny, Elizabeth Warren, and Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. We're going to start with Elizabeth Warren, who, as you know, she has always talked about being Native American, and of course there's no basis for that. I was at a restaurant this weekend and I saw a guy with an Elizabeth Warren for President t-shirt. Now, had I been a liberal and a jackass, I would have gone over where he was eating and gone, "Oh, Elizabeth Warren, woo, 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 woo." I guess then you're a jerk, or you're stupid, or you know, Elizabeth Warren sucks, Pocahontas, whatever. Of course, I didn't. Although one of my friends suggested I go over and with my Make America Great Again hat and walk over and say, "I'm so glad to hear that Elizabeth Warren has finally apologized today for her lying about being Native American. And she managed to do it without giving her opponents a usable soundbite. Do you think she will pay back the hundreds of thousands of dollars that she effectively stole from Native Americans and other institutions by working at Harvard in their place, that she got as a result of lying about her heritage?" President Trump calls her Pocahontas. I have a couple of memes that I came across that were pretty funny. One is Land of Fakes, which shows Elizabeth Warren on like a butter container. She's Princess Moonbat Feathers, and also known as Spreading Bull, which is true. She suddenly deleted this week her Indian Native American ancestry claims on Tuesday after meeting with Native Americans in Sioux City, Iowa. Now, her apology doesn't seriously address anything. It isn't specific on anything. She doesn't mention her fake claims or the privileges that she received in order to, after she had made these claims. She said, quote, "I know that I have made mistakes. I am sorry for the harm I have caused. I have listened and I have learned a lot. I'm grateful for the many conversations we've had together. It's a great honor to be able to partner with Indian country." This is when she was in Sioux City, Iowa. That means nothing. It's a mouthful of bland hooey without admitting to anything. I mean, you could, if you killed somebody and this is supposed to be your confession, what are you saying? You don't say anything. I mean, what about the Texas bar application where she says she's Native American? What about her job at Harvard? Who didn't receive a job as a Native American or a position in the, I don't know that there's so many positions in the bar, but how many people didn't receive extra consideration that were actually Native Americans because she was an imposter who was occupying this position? How much federal aid to Harvard and other places that she claimed to be a Native American received due to minority positions filled? How does she plan to pay back that? Shouldn't she be someone who makes reparations to Native Americans? I mean, Native Americans are still in a second-class citizen state. Some of the pictures you see coming out of reservations, it's pitiful. I mean, the Cherokee and others on the East Coast have done pretty well with the casinos and all, and I'm very happy for them, and I hope they get every dime they can. But there are people who are Native Americans living in poverty that need these positions, that need a chance to get out from wherever they are to move up in the world. And she has taken their birthright. Basically, she's stolen their birthright. And so now, how are you going to pay that back? You're sorry. You didn't even say you're sorry. You said you've made mistakes. Well, all of us make mistakes. When you make a mistake, you say you're sorry. I didn't mean to do that, or I was mistaken about something and I didn't mean to do it. I'm sorry. I mean, she says, I'm sorry for the harm I've caused. That's just pitiful. There's nothing to that. She ought to be ashamed. But what about delusional Biden? Biden is, he's kind of gotten out of his mind. If you, even though his doctor says he's in his good mind, and he's the only one that's running for a Democrat presidential candidate who has a mind. But I don't know, I beg to differ. His wife said you had to kind of hold your nose and swallow a bit and vote for him because it was so important to beat Trump. Why is it so important? Do you not like the economy? Do you not like having money in your pocket? I don't know about you, but I reached in my wallet yesterday and I had money to pay for something. Actually, I had a little bit more than I needed, and I was very excited because there's been a lot of years that I didn't have enough or didn't have any, or I was wondering who the lucky winner would be this week that got paid. I mean, he was talking in Pennsylvania this week, claiming he worked as a coal miner while going to law school. And this isn't the first time he's brought up coal mining. I mean, he claims he probably would already be president if he hadn't said that his uncle was a coal miner. I mean, being a coal miner, it's a hard job. I can't see him crawling around underground, with a pickaxe. I mean, the Obama-Biden administration left fewer than 400 coal mines in operation at the end of their terms. Obama said anyone that wanted to start a coal mine could, but that they would go bankrupt. With all the regulations and restrictions that they put on the coal miners, it was true. I mean, these people were out of work. This is their whole entire livelihood. It's ridiculous to try and think that we can do without coal. I mean, coal can be mined and it can be processed cleanly. There are things called scrubbers that there's put between where they're processing the coal and for where the smoke and everything goes out of the stacks into the environment. These are made specifically to scrub the dirty parts out of the air so that it goes out a lot more cleanly than it ever has before. This is technology. This is what we're able to do, and it's already there. Why in the world would you want to destroy an entire economy like in a state like West Virginia? Because that's their whole entire livelihood. That's the majority of their jobs. Of course, they were a consumer-driven society where you have to buy things in order for us to have a good economy. But if you don't have a job, you're not buying anything. And it's just wrong to think that we can depend solely on solar or wind. Those are great, but they're not 100%. They're not going to make electricity for you like water and coal do. So it's kind of a moot point to try and tear down the coal miners. And Joe Biden, he thinks he's a coal miner. He can't make a difference between truth and fact. I thought they were the same thing. Most people do. He's totally out in left field, and I don't see how he can be the forerunner. But then you look at the choices that are behind him. I mean, Bernie Sanders, I believe that, and this is my opinion, which everybody's entitled to have one, other than he's combed his hair with a balloon. He is the type of Jewish person that Trump was talking about yesterday, that if you vote for a Democrat, you're disloyal to the Jews and to Israel. Well, these people are totally against Israel. Bernie Sanders is against Israel. Bernie Sanders is a Jew. That doesn't make any sense to me. That would be like me being against America. I'm an American. Of course, we have people like Omar, who is against America and is against Israel, is against Jews. She's an anti-Semite. And she and her colleague Talib were busy this last week trying to draw attention to themselves as usual, and also go over to Israel and embarrass them, go through nefarious deeds that they had planned. And I think that Israel was right to deny them entry. I mean, if you vote for a Democrat, and even if you're not a Jewish person, you're very disloyal to Israel and the Jewish people. And I think it's disheartening to see those of Jewish faith allow Democrats like Omar and Talib to be anti-Semite and not take up for Israel or the Jewish people. I mean, where's Schumer? Schumer's also a Jew. Where's the Democratic leadership? They don't condemn these people. They don't condemn them at all. What about the pictures? Do we have a picture of Obama with Louis Farrakhan, Josh? I mean, this picture, they forced the photographer to suppress this picture until 2016 because on the right there is Louis Farrakhan. Do you have any idea, have you ever listened to a soundbite from Louis Farrakhan where he calls Jews termites, they're Satan? I mean, and that's some of the milder things he said. I mean, he wants to see Israel eradicated from the earth. He's a horrible, radical person, and yet everybody's here all grins and giggles. And how can you put up with that as an American when our best ally in the Middle East is Israel? And when Netanyahu would come to the United States, Obama would treat him shamelessly, bring him in through the back door. Can you imagine how disheartening and disrespectful that had to be? What if Obama went to Israel and they brought him in through the back door? They didn't do that, even though they had every right to if you wanted to play tit for tat, but they were bigger than that. Personally, I will stick from the verse from Isaiah that says, I will bless those that bless her, speaking of Israel, and curse those who curse her. Because I tell you what, I don't want to be on the wrong side of the end of the world when it comes to, did you bless Israel, did you curse Israel? Thank God Trump is a champion for Israel, and he moved the he moved the embassy to Israel, to Jerusalem, so that he could show the world that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel and that he's on their side. And I'm so thankful for that because, like I say, I don't want to be one of those who are cursed because I cursed her. I'm all for Israel, and as for me and my house, we will always be behind Israel. We're going to take a little break now, and we'll come back in a few minutes and talk about some more things that you might have missed in the mainstream media. I'm Candace, your host. Join us again in a few moments with the Freedom Zone.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Hi, Hi, I'm Rhonda the Mattress Lady, and this is my husband Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in J next to Walmart. And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in J next to Walmart.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and Ellijay, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World. In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
We're back, and thank you for joining us again for the last half of the Freedom Zone. In this segment, I want to talk about education and our younger generations. This is a picture of a one-room schoolhouse that my great-grandfather donated land for and had built. My great-uncle and my grandmother taught there as teachers for many years. I have an article about education on my site this week, and we have to realize that education in the United States, while free for everyone, you're coming into getting what you pay for, which is pretty sad, because every time you see somebody interviewing students, especially even college students, and asking them, something like who's on the $20 bill, they don't know. It's sad that they're getting indoctrinated, not educated. But I believe, and this is my opinion, and like I've said before, everybody's entitled to one, that schools are basically responsible at least 60-70% of the reason that we have so much dysfunction in the younger generation. Of course, when I was in school, I thought the whole thing, the whole idea, the way they ran it was communistic. Even at a very tender age, I was not great. It was someone telling me what to do or how to think. I went to private school. It was very, very wonderfully great for education. I got a great classical education at this school, but we had a quote-unquote religion class, and it was almost 100% contrary to my personal beliefs. I was brought up in the church. I knew quite a bit about the Bible because we had read it in Sunday school and in vacation Bible school. And I was constantly disagreeing with my teachers about what they were trying to teach. They were trying to teach a very milquetoast, dumbed down, I guess disillusional type of religion class. One of the things that we went head-to-head on quite often was that the Bible wasn't literal, wasn't supposed to be taken literal. It was all just a suggestion, an allegory. It didn't really mean what it said, and I disagreed. Now, this was a long time ago, back in the olden days of the 70s and the 80s. And the thing is, they were starting this crackdown on social time with us at that time. You know, we weren't allowed much time to talk. We didn't have a lot of time during the day to socialize. We did have some dances and events, but in comparison to the school days of my parents, it was quite a bit less for young people to socialize or to interact, which is a problem because this is important then and now to develop relationships. I mean, in my opinion, they wanted to alienate us from each other. It started slow, and you can see how young people live and communicate today. Most of them are doing this most of the time. They think they know a lot of people, but they don't. They don't know them personally. They've talked to them online, or they stay on a machine, which is kind of an illusion of life, and play games. They can play with people all around the world, that's fine, but they don't really have a friend that could come over. Now, I'm not talking about everybody, but a lot of these people are very isolated. In the 80s, the arcades were really big, really popular, and allowed people to go out and play the games and also socialize. And like I was saying, when my parents were in school, young people connected as couples and friends in school, and then they later married. But now student loan debt and the lack of interaction on a personal basis has slowed marriage and the beginning of families just to a crawl, because people have gotten a degree in underwater basket weaving, which nobody's going to give them a job in that, or gender studies. What is that? There's, as I said here on another episode we had, the Pope said there were two genders and God made them. Period. I mean, it's the end of the sentence. I mean, people don't understand that you have to get a job in something that will bring you money, because if you pay so much into college, you need to recoup some of that money. Larger cities are the harder hit because there's just, so many people, and you don't get to interact with others, and there are a lot of people who don't know their neighbors. Your families don't always live in the same area like they used to, so that cuts down on another way that people got together as couples and eventually married. And the relationships were built on friendship first, and then more intimate things later. Nowadays, everybody just hooks up, and they don't know who they're talking to. They don't know who they're getting involved in. You don't know their family. They don't know yours. But this is a grassroots plan, which I've always believed, even as a child, is the path to communism. As I said, I wasn't much of a joiner. I wasn't much of someone to be directed. I always had thoughts of my own. But the bottom line of communism is that it starts to isolate people. You get them alone. Then you get them dependent on the government for whatever they want to give you, which is why a lot of the younger generations want socialism and all this stuff for free medical care, free this, free that, everything fair, a job for everyone, whether you want one or not. Even if you're not willing to, go to work, you still get money from the government. Then there's getting them hooked because they're isolated. It is normal for humans to collect in couples and in groups. That's normal. That's the way that we interact as people. They've got everybody isolated. Well, then let's make marijuana legal, and then they can either drink when they're depressed, or they can smoke dope. Now, I believe marijuana has a lot of great medical reasons to be legal. A lot of great ones, especially for cancer patients. There's just so many, autism. There's so many things that the BCD part of the marijuana can help. But when you're constantly smoking it, you're distracted, you're away from reality, and you continue to stay isolated because you just have this inertia and apathy because you're stoned. You're not making career choices. You're not making careers that you're building up your career, years and years of working in the same field. I mean, it's just a form of getting you isolated and getting you dependent. I mean, if you look at Russia, I've known people from Russia, and they drink a lot. And not to say that all of them do. I don't want to stereotype, because in school we were taught not to stereotype. And that made a big impression on me, and I don't like to make group assumptions. But the thing is, if you don't get around other people, you're isolated, and you're sad in a lot of ways because you don't have that interaction. I mean, we used to play, outside. We used to make connections as young people, as friends, make connections as young adults in your job. These are lifelong friends you make in college. You may not live in the same place anymore, but if you try to stay in touch, it gives you that support system, which if you don't have any real friends, if you have all virtual friends on a video game, you're in bad shape. You don't have a support system when things go wrong. Used to, as in this one-room schoolhouse that my great-grandfather built, the teachers were hired by the parents. The parents paid the teachers. The parents made sure the teacher had a place to stay. In fact, there's, they would have what they call a teacherage, and it would be a house where the teacher stayed. Mostly they were women. There were some men, but they would take care of it. If the teacher came and popped off and was teaching them something crazy, they would discourage them, and if they continued, they would dismiss them and get someone else. If parents don't take control back of these schools, and a lot of them are with charter schools and school choice programs that people are pushing for, that's great, but you've got to be very active. Like, for example, the lady that wrote the Little House on the Prairie series, Laura Ingalls Wilder. She was 15 years old when she got her first certificate to teach. She was hired by a parent group. She was put up in someone's house. And she taught school in a one-room schoolhouse like the one my great-grandfather built. I mean, if you don't have parents and teachers and the education system working together as one, you're going to have dysfunction. You're going to have, children that turn into dysfunctional adults, and they come up with these mass shootings or something because someone in school has told them that everything should be fair, everything should be free, everything should be just the way you want it. Well, you get out of school and that's, contrary to reality, and that's not the case. I mean, they go from dysfunctional children who think they do no wrong to dysfunctional adults who do what they snap, and they do what they do, as in a couple of weeks ago when we had 2 shootings in one weekend. I mean, you've got to go back to the picture of this one-room schoolhouse, because this is where people learned. They didn't learn politics. They didn't learn, they learned reading, writing, arithmetic, and now we don't teach any history to our children about communism. So they're like, oh, I'd like utopia communism, even if it's impossible. And they'll say that it's impossible, but that's what they want. Or they want socialism so that it will be totally fair, totally free. And this has never, ever worked. This is not a genre that has ever worked. So if you don't find parents taking back the education of their children, you've got to try to get people to do that. And if your schools are teaching something you disagree with, maybe the best course of action is to pull that child out and put it somewhere else, put it in another school, so that they can thrive and not be learning values that aren't yours. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of children that end up like this picture, especially the one in the lower right corner, who's screaming, "No!" when Trump got inaugurated. It's one of my favorite clips from that day, but you can't just wish things weren't the way they are. You have to do stuff about them. You have to make sure that you change them. You vote, you educate yourself, you get a job, you try to move on, you build your life. Nothing's fair, nothing's free, so it'd be a good time to get over that now and move on, and then you won't turn out like the lady in the lower right corner, where you just can't believe that things didn't turn out the way you wanted. I hope that you'll check out my article this week. It talks about the way schools used to be run and what we need to do as parents to get our children in a safe place, because we don't last forever, and we don't want to leave our children disillusioned, disheartened, and alone when we die. I'm Candace, and I thank you for joining us on the Freedom Zone, where we set the truth free every day. And we'll be back with you next week, and we hope you'll join us. Have a great week.